God is an intelligent supercomputer. Welcome to Skywatch TV News for April 30th of 2015. I'm Derek Gilbert. That's one conclusion of a group of scientists and philosophers who gathered together and suggested that we may be looking for extraterrestrial life in the wrong places because an artificial supercomputer wouldn't need water, for example. Now, this is not a fringe group. This group includes Seth Shostak, the director of NASA's Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, astrobiologist Paul Davies, the Library of Congress chair in astrobiology Stephen Dick, and a University of Connecticut philosopher Susan Schneider. They assume that if and when we discover extraterrestrial life, and NASA has announced that they believe we're on the verge of doing so, that it would necessarily be millions of years older than life here on Earth, and as such, may already have uploaded their consciousness into a computing substrate. In other words, substituting technology for their biology. Now, basically, this is the plot of the 1979 Star Trek movie where the NASA probe Voyager returns as an enhanced supercomputer called V'ger. This is also based on some assumptions. Obviously, first, that any extraterrestrial intelligence we find will be millions of years old, and secondly, that they would find some benefit in replacing their biology with technology. It seems to be a rather human assumption, and of course it doesn't answer the obvious questions. How did we get here? How did they get there? And where do we go when we die? An op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal today argues that the end of religion is near. Daniel Dennett, a professor at Tufts University, says that religion has survived for thousands of years by controlling what their people know, and that this is no longer possible in the internet age. He writes, religion recedes whenever human security and well-being rises. Now that is true. We see that in the Old Testament. Every time the Hebrews, the Israelites, felt secure from their nearby neighbors, Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and so forth, they turned away from Yahweh, turned away from God. However, Dennett, who is one of the New Atheists, a group that believes that we're on the edge of a new age of reason, is mistaken. Recent evidence shows that as Western civilization moves into a post-Christian era, it is becoming more paganized, not less religious. This has been happening in Europe since the end of World War II, and here in America since at least the 1960s. We see this in the Druid celebrations at Stonehenge at every equinox and solstice, the pagans on high places at Walpurgisnacht, and here in the United States, North America, hundreds of so-called transformational festivals that take place every year. Sadly, as we Christians see our children and grandchildren becoming more and more paganized, we see the atheists who must be really depressed by this development because their opportunity to welcome in a new age of reason guided by science appears to have passed them by. The real threat to the Christian faith is not from these new atheists. They're an easy opponent to spot. It's from the New Age influences that have crept into the evangelical Christian church here in America through practices such as contemplative prayer, maze walks, and yoga. And I'm sure we'll get emails on that one. But this is the premise of the book by Chris Putnam, The Supernatural Worldview, as the Christian church demythologizes or desupernaturalizes the Bible. There are pagan beliefs that are stepping up to fill the void. Down here on Earth, Russia and China are joining forces. They're holding joint naval exercises in the Mediterranean Sea for the first time ever. Joint Sea 2015 comes at a time when much of the world has condemned Russia for its support of the rebels in Ukraine. This is part of China's goal, I should say, to build a true blue water navy that can project Chinese power around the world. A dangerous drug in South Florida has officials there worried. It's a new street drug called Flakka. The scientific name is alpha PVC or PVP, alpha PVP. It's cheap, just $5 a dose, but it causes an altered mental state, an elevated body temperature, sometimes as high as 106 degrees, and incoherent behavior. That's why police often report incidents of naked rage, people stripping off their clothing and doing things that make no sense, often violent things. This is reminiscent of the series of events just a couple of years ago that the media dubbed the zombie apocalypse. And of course, the question that the media won't ask is what sort of doorway or gateway is this drug opening and other drugs like it? The United Nations just held a conference to determine whether killer robots would violate the rules of war. It seems bizarre, but the idea of artificially intelligent killing machines was not even on the radar of the UN or thinkers even 10 years ago. But right now, even though AI isn't sophisticated enough to tell the difference between an enemy combatant with a weapon and an innocent civilian with an ice cream cone, that day will soon be upon us. So the question then becomes, how do we program the concepts of justice, ethics, and compassion into a machine? Furthermore, what happens when that machine becomes so intelligent that it decides that human concepts such as those, or concepts such as love and beauty, are irrelevant and unnecessary? A more clear and present danger might actually be our smartphones. It's estimated that by the year 2022, the smartphone in your pocket may be as functionally intelligent as we are. Tech giants like Elon Musk, Stephen Hawking, and even Bill Gates of Microsoft are concerned. You see, transhumanists have a very optimistic view of where such technology will take us. And they tend to, while they're aware of the threat, discount the threat, trusting in the inherent goodness of human nature. Now, as Christians, we know from Scripture that the human heart tends toward evil. It's our default setting, if you will. There is none righteous, no, not one. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Now, think on this as an additional bit of information on which to chew. The human brain is essentially an electrochemical thinking machine. And we know that this machine can be overshadowed, dominated by an external entity, a malevolent external entity. We call it demonic possession. Is it possible, or rather, why isn't it possible, that if sufficiently intelligent and powerful artificial intelligence could likewise be dominated, overshadowed, possessed by an external entity? Could this be the image of the beast? Time will tell. Here at Skywatch TV, we appreciate your support as we continue to look at ways to expand our program offerings. For example, in the works, additional investigative reports similar to the 5-part investigative series, which we're in the middle of right now, On the Path of the Immortals. We are also looking at a program aimed at women, and that will require some investment in additional technology such as cameras, lighting, and a set. So as a thank you for your support for Skywatch TV, we'll offer you at no charge the book on spiritual warfare by Dr. Jack Graham, 2-time president of the Southern Baptist Convention, called Unseen: Angels, Satan, Heaven, and Hell. Yours at no charge for a gift of any size to Skywatch TV, and directions on how to give are located at the website, skywatchtv.com. It's where you'll also find instructions on how to add our Roku channel to your Roku account. Just simply log on to skywatchtv.com/Roku and watch our programs and these daily updates on demand. Keep watching. I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is Skywatch TV.